We are headed for $1,000 silver in the next decade. We've got a major Wall Street bank telling us that by the end of President Donald Trump's presidency, we could have $6,000 gold. All of this, in my mind, is almost a certainty. The other certainty that we have right now is my appreciation for you joining me here in the basement for a Ron's Basement Silver and Gold focused video. We are headed for some good times. We're going to talk about all the reasons why for silver and gold. But first, let's go out and take a look at the silver chart. You guys have been begging me to share my thoughts on what's going on with silver right now. And sure we got up the right screen. Here we go, guys. We are on the chart from Yahoo Finance. Silver getting clobbered today, down 70 cents. Oh my gosh, silver in the futures market at $32.41. When we look at a 1 year chart of silver, though, I want to draw your attention to something very interesting that we have occurring. Let me get out the, hold on here. All right. Look, right here is the $30 level. Up here is the $35 level. Look, we have established a strong, what I consider to be base within that $30 to $35 level. The critical thing that we're going to need to see happen here in the next 6 months, and I've also made a bold prediction that we will have $40 silver by April 1st of 2026, is a break above this $35 level. It will happen. I am very confident that we will see it happen within the next 6 months, maybe sooner, and that will lead us to a silver price by April 1st of 2026 of $60 per ounce. Now, I wanted to zoom out a little bit and look at silver on a 5-year chart. Guys, look, another critical thing going on with silver. Hold on here. Here we go. Hold on. All right. Another critical thing happening in the silver market, if we go all the way back to early 2023, late 2022, do you see this? Do you see what I see? We are headed for good times in the silver market. All right, but all that aside, we've got some fundamental key things going on with silver that are going to give us the reasons why we could move easily in the next decade to $1,000 silver. I was having a conversation last night with a friend of mine. He doesn't really even, he owns a little silver, a little gold, and a little platinum, but let's just say he's a very wealthy guy. Self-made, over $10 million net worth. He invests mostly in the stock market, farmland, and in commercial real estate. But I was talking with him and I was like, do you realize like what's going on in the silver market, and laid it out for him. He said that he thinks easily within the next 10 years, we could have this $1,000 silver price. And I want to show you some data that if we take a step back and consider, right, several factors affecting silver, this is easily within the realm of our possibilities. And hey, are you going to be here for the next 10 years? I'm going to be here for the next 10 years. I want you to continue to show up here in the basement. I want you to feel like you found a little home away from home, where we love to talk about what's going on in the economy, what's going on with the US dollar, what's going on with you, right, and me, but in particular, silver and gold, because we love to talk about both of them. So please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. It's a big deal when you're here. You're important, right? And it's a big honor to have you joining me in the basement. Now, this guy, I just get so much great information from. Let me share this first. His Twitter profile. This is Make Gold Great Again. As the computer reloads, there he is, Make Gold Great Again. He put out a wonderful article. You can find it on his Twitter profile, but look at this data, guys, okay? I'd never really seen it presented this way, and I think it makes it crystal clear where we're heading when it comes to the silver deficit. Like the world is running out of silver. This says total silver demand in red versus silver supply each year. 2015, the world used 102% of the supply. Okay. And again, supply is coming from the mines and recycling. 2016, right? There was a surplus, 95%. 2017, surplus, 96%. 2018, like the world consumed just as much silver as it provided. 2019, same thing. 2020, another surplus. That's the end of the surpluses. Look at this, guys. 2021, we used 109% of the supply. 2022, 126% of the supply. 2023, 120% of the supply. In 2024, 118% of the supply. And again, demand measured by industry, photo, jewelry, and silverware. Supply is what's coming from mining and recycling. This can only go on for so long, right? The world, you got to get it through your thick skull. I got to get it through my thick skull. There's only so much surplus silver above ground, right? Here's a 5-ounce silver bar from Keith Neumeyer's First Mint. That's part of the above ground surplus, right? You've got some probably at your house, but nonetheless, that's a finite level. So we're consuming more silver than we create or we mine every year. We're consuming more, and little by little by little, by big, that chips away at the above ground surplus. I'll ask you a question. Are you going to sell your silver? When it gets to 50, 60, 150, 600, or 1,000? No, right? Silver stackers are very, very, very loyal to their silver, right? And we are headed. It can only go on for so long that the world can consume more of anything that it makes. And those same laws of supply and demand, they do apply to silver. You know what? While we're at it, I want to say thank you. I have a new sponsor for the gold and silver content. It is First Mint. You can see the sign right there behind me. They are a silver mint in Las Vegas, Nevada, the United States of America. Okay, but there's some really unique things about First Mint, right? They make one-of-a-kind silver bullion, world-class silver bullion products. But what's really unique about them is that they are owned by First Majestic Silver, Keith Neumeyer's big silver mining juggernaut company. So with First Mint, when you buy silver from them, you know that silver has come directly from a mine in Mexico to the mint in Nevada and then to you. And these are unique products. These are world-class products. But during that whole process, from the mine to the mint to you, did you notice there's something missing? Yes, there's no COMEX or no LBMA. So check out First Mint. I showed you this earlier. I got a number of products from them, but this is absolute. Susie loves this. It's a 5-ounce silver bar. And as you can see, it says First Mint right there on it. Let me take you out to their website real quick. I appreciate them sponsoring the gold and silver content. And here we are on their website. If we go here, let's go look at that bar that I showed you, the 5-ounce silver bar. There it is right there. Free shipping on orders over $199. Beautiful products. They also have a really cool silver rounds. I'll be showing you those in subsequent videos. But check out First Mint, okay? They've got great service, right? Great selection, unique products, and it's a company you can trust. This is Keith Neumeyer's First Majestic Silver. Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot. There's a discount code that you can use, but don't tell anybody, okay? VIPRB. VIPRB. Think of Ron's Basement. And there's a link to that in the description of the video. Thank you, First Mint, for sponsoring our gold and silver content. It gets even more exciting, though, guys, when we talk about this deficit in silver, when we realize it's being created by China and India. Let's go take a look one more time at this great article. And, right, look, okay, highest January silver imports to India since metals focus ever started. Okay, there's Modi, right? India, just consuming massive amounts of silver. And then we have this, right? Same thing with China. Make gold great again. The silver milkshake theory. The Chinese silver price, always higher. The physical market, always higher than what we have in the United States. The Chinese and the Indian economies are absolutely sucking the silver out of the West. Okay. They're paying a higher price, right? The Shanghai Gold Exchange, we look at it all the time. The price for silver is usually $1 or $2 higher. They're sucking the silver from the West to the East. That can only go on for so long. But it's even more astounding when you think about the fact that India, for one, is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. We know China, again, for the last decade, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And both of these economies have over 1.4 billion people. In India alone, in India alone, okay, they're estimating that like in the next 5 years, they're going to have 100 million people. That's like a third of the United States population. 100 million people moving into the consumer class. And what do all the products that are within reach now of these 100 million people, what do they all include? What do all the cell phones include? What do all the electronics include? What are the refrigerators, microwaves, everything has silver in it. Guys, we have never been in a better position as we look out over these next 10 years for silver to absolutely skyrocket. Now, look, here's my disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't make any financial decisions based on what I'm saying. This is my truth. I've been a long-term silver bull, and I believe silver's been held underwater. But whatever you do, always invest money, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, crypto, whatever you're doing, do it responsibly. But as we move into these 10 years, we've got the deficit that we talked about. And guess what? Little secret for you, right? There's been very little money invested in the silver mining sector over the last 10, 15, 20 years because the margins have been so low. There's been no big incentive, right? Companies like First Majestic are way ahead of the curve, right? They've been continuing to build their business, but that's an exclusive handful of companies that have focused on silver mining. So there's not going to be a ton of silver available. It takes a decade minimum to explore for silver, to get permits, to build a mine, to get it financed and whatnot. These next 10 years could become extremely interesting for any of us who've decided, right, to take what we think is a smart move and to invest in silver. And then on top of it all, right, the biggest factor that we need to realize, and it can be a bit of a wild card, is the fact that the unit of measure that we're using, right, this is 5 ounces of silver. What's the unit of measure that we're using to measure it? It's the US dollar, right? If we were in Europe, we'd say euros, whatever. Japan, we'd say yen. But if we're measuring silver in dollars and we look at the underlying fact that using the dollar as the unit of measure, right, the fact that the dollar is in big, big, big trouble, right? We can pull up the US debt clock quickly, because we need to keep track. These numbers move at such speed. There we are, almost $37 trillion in debt. Interest expense at $1 trillion. We know that the deficit now comes in around $2 trillion. Guys, the dollar is based on nothing more than debt and promises at this point. I don't like to have to talk about it. I'm an American. I love my country. I love what our founding fathers set out for us. However, the founding fathers were not in favor of central banks, were not in favor of debt, right? And certainly are rolling over in their graves when they look at what has happened on both a fiscal and monetary policy level in the United States. And one thing that we do like to look at here in the basement on a regular basis, see if we can get this to work. It won't. Okay, so you can see my little yellow finger right here, the dollar to silver ratio, just to give you an idea of the relationship between the paper US dollar and what is going on with the silver market. There's now the dollar to silver ratio sits at 1,070. That means that for each 1 ounce of silver that's being mined, being produced this year, okay, we know it's already being sucked up and used. We looked at that earlier. But when you compare that 1 ounce of silver, right, that's being produced by a miner toiling away in Mexico, right, it's where a lot of our silver comes from. For each 1 ounce of silver, your government is creating $1,000 via the M2 money supply. So when we talk about unbelievable numbers that can happen in the silver market, it's really not that unbelievable when we consider the important fact that the unit of measure that we're using to measure our silver, the US dollar, is basically, unfortunately, doomed. Okay. Right. So $10,000 silver, $10,000 silver in the next 10 years. People were so skewed by recency bias, right? We all believe like, well, silver's never going to do silver, gold, right? Look, I sat down here for years, right? I had a blindfolded bear with $2,500. I said, gold's going to go to 2,500 and I think much higher. And nobody would believe it. Very few believed it. A lot of you did because you've educated yourself, right? You've pulled your head out of the sand, right? Crazy returns for silver because of even more factors, right, are coming. That's what I believe, right? I know a lot of you believe it as well, but we could see silver prices that are just unbelievable as we move into this next decade. The big question will be, let's say we get the $1,000 silver 9 years from now. What will $1,000 buy you, right? Like currently, let's say $32 silver, an ounce of silver would buy you basically one nice meal at a decent restaurant. 9 years from now, if we have $1,000 silver, is that what we're going to be paying for a decent meal at a restaurant? We're going to need to watch the real rate of return. I think the real rate of return will provide or will be robust as we move into this arena, right? Meaning that instead of an ounce of silver buying one nice meal at a restaurant 10 years from now, it may buy 4 or 5, maybe 10, maybe 20, right? And that's where we get these incredible estimates of people saying, oh, you might be able to buy a house with a nice house with 1,000. Some people say 100. I won't go that far, but you might be able to buy a decent average house for like 1,000 ounces of silver, right? It's not out of the question. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm usually right. And you can confirm that with Susie. You guys know Susie, upstairs Susie, my wife, who communicates via walkie-talkie. She wants to say hi to everybody, but she's not here today because she is out taking care of her 92-year-old elderly mother. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how that all plays out. We got a lot more to cover, guys. Let's go. We're going to move over to gold. News out of Kitco. Asia and China, not only are they taking over the silver market, but they're taking over gold as well. And let's get this on the right screen. Here we go. From Kitco and our good friend Neil's Christians, man, we love Neil. Asian investors continue to dominate the gold market with ETF demand surging in April. That came from the World Gold Council. Basically, Asia led the inflows for 65% of net global total, their strongest month on record. North American demand was also sizable, while European flows flipped negative. So we saw massive gold ETF buying from China. Hopefully you guys can still see me and hear me. Are we having technical problems? Let me go out to the comments here. If somebody could give me a 5x5, that would be awesome. But we're seeing, again, not only with silver, but with gold, and not only on the physical level, but on the ETF level in China, right? Unbelievable moves. Now, what about a $6,000 gold? JP Morgan. Have you heard this? They're saying that we can have thank you, Jake. Hey, good to see Jake from Jake's Custom Parts. Huh? Everybody type 444 to say thanks to Jake. He's been part of this community for a long time. Thank you, Jake, for being here and being a moderator. But let's talk about what JP Morgan is saying, that we could have $6,000 gold by the end of Trump's presidential administration. Let's go check this out. This comes from mining.com. JP Morgan says gold could hit $6,000 when Trump's term ends. There's a Trump building. In yellow, they reinforced their bullish case for gold, forecasting prices to rise $6,000 per ounce by the end of U.S. President Donald Trump's current term in 2029. It's not that far away, guys. An 80% increase on current levels. Now, this scenario, make sure we got the right screen up here, which we do. That's just a small, okay, this scenario, according to its analysts, could realistically occur with just a small allocation away from U.S. assets. That is the most exciting thing, not only for gold, but silver as well. So few. Well, let me read the next paragraph, then I'll extrapolate upon that. Even with 0.5% of foreign held U.S. assets reallocated to gold, that would result in an 18% annual returns and eventually send prices to 6,000. They wrote that in a note. What they're talking about is the fact that U.S. financial assets are so underrepresented by gold, right? The allocation that people have, I've heard 0.5%, probably closer to 1% now, but on a historic basis, our fellow Americans have almost no money in precious metals. And if just a few, right? We used to talk about this all the time. It's been a couple months, right? Let's say that's 1 in 100 people in the U.S. have money in physical silver or physical gold. That's 1 in 100. Think about this. If that number goes to 2 in 100, that's only 2%. Excuse me. That's 100% increase in money. If that number goes from 1% to 4%, that's 4 times the money. And you better believe the people that hold silver and hold gold, ask yourself, are you going to sell? No. I mean, it takes a very small increase in the number of people in the United States moving into precious metals to have a major, major impact on the price. And we know, right? I'm talking to the big bullion dealers like gold and in particular silver sales aren't going crazy in the United States. Really? No. We know it's happening in Asia, right? Because they have a different appreciation and a different knowledge when it comes to the metals, but it's yet to happen in the United States. Let's go back to JP Morgan, see if they had anything else of interest to say. While it doesn't seem like much, only amounting to 3% of total gold holdings, the additional demand impulse on a quarterly basis is quite immense. Like we just said, even a minuscule boost in demand can create a big price swing. This is JP Morgan, right? These are the guys that like to manipulate the gold and silver price. This is JP Morgan saying this. While hypothetical, the scenario illustrates why we remain structurally bullish on gold and think that prices have much, much further to run. And what's going on with Costco? Are Americans, we have to ask ourselves, starting to wake up, right? We get more and more news out of Costco. The Costco moms, the Costco dads, they're ahead of the curve, right? The gold rush continues, selling out in hours, and now they're putting on purchase limits. Got a couple things highlighted here. Wholesale retailers, 24 karat gold bars have gone viral, again, disappearing from inventory. Costco's website, as of the writing of this article, now restricts members to only buying 2 bars in a 24-hour period. Purchase limit of 2. Read the notice. This is a non-refundable and non-returnable. Social media posts, like on Reddit, quickly noticed the change and shared their opinions in the gold buying craze. Best investment right now, one user commented. I saw it on the news, and Americans are buying gold to safeguard their savings from the current chaos. Once it hits the news, it becomes a bad idea to jump on the trend as a buyer. If we get to the point where the dollar is worthless, we've got a lot of other stuff to worry about besides money, somebody said. Okay. All right, guys. So that's what's happening in the world of precious metals. We've really yet to see. Ask yourself this question, right? Are your neighbors talking? I live in a upper middle class part of St. Louis. My neighbors are just starting to ask and wake up. I told you guys like 2-3 years ago, nobody, it was like ghost town. If I was at the neighborhood swimming pool and one of my neighbors swam up and I didn't feel like talking to him, I knew the best way to get rid of him was to start talking about gold and silver. It worked. I don't know if that's going to work this year. People are waking up. People are realizing what's going on in the United States with the US dollar. And I want to show you a quick video. Okay, I'm going to do that in 1 second. First, I want to say thanks to my other channel sponsors, Ledger. Ledger is the premier, right, hardware wallet crypto security company. You can learn more about them at ledger.com. And MoonPay. MoonPay is a leading fintech company. If you haven't heard of MoonPay, you will soon. It's a big honor to have these two premier companies also sponsoring Ron's Basement. Now, let's watch this video. Now, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. But I want you to watch this with an open mind. We'll watch the first 18 seconds. This came from Bitcoin Magazine, but it shows unbelievable how much being printed in the United States. Hold on here. We'll start at the beginning. Okay. Listen to this. We'll just do 18 seconds. Let me make sure you can hear that. Hold on here. Hold on. And I got to make sure that I'm sharing this, which I'm not. There we go. Okay. I knew something was amiss. Hold on, guys. This is worth the wait. Welcome to live streaming in the basement. Okay, here we are. All right, get ready. Get out your popcorn. 18 seconds of dollar. Well, you know what I want to say. Okay. I had no idea. 26,000 shipping containers? Think of those big 40-foot shipping containers. 26,000 of those per year? That's the equivalent of how many paper dollars our government is printing. And, they want us to think that it's a store of value. No, right? It's paper. It's based on debt. It's based on nothing. Right? There's a great new Ray Dalio 4-minute video out about when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. Why? I mean, it's real obvious. Why did they do that? Because the gold standard and the silver standard imposed discipline upon our government. They just wanted to print. Look, it's real easy, guys. When you can just print these ad nauseum, when there's no limit on what can be done with them, right? How could they not lose value? And I'm very sad about it. Don't get me wrong. I love this country. The founding fathers in the U.S. Constitution specifically said that gold and silver are the real forms of money. So we're patriotic when we talk about this. It's incredible what is going on. And again, when we talk about $6,000 gold by the end of President Trump's current term, when we talk about $1,000 silver, and I got news for you, I think that's low in the next 10 years, right? We have to remember that what we're talking about, we're measuring this with this, okay? Right? We're measuring this silver, gold with this paper. This is finite. Whether it's gold or silver, this, right, is not cannot be just randomly printed. It takes an immense amount of work. This is from First Mint, 5 ounces of silver, right? So I know that sometime over the last year, right, men and women in Mexico at a First Majestic mine toiled away to create this. And then it went to the mint in Las Vegas, and more work was put in to create this. This can just be created out of thin air, unlimited. Okay, anything that's finite, not just silver, land, any of it. Well, when you measure it in these, but just put them in your hand. It's going to go. It's if you're going to measure it in dollars, and I know, right? I've always gotten a lot of flack, right? I got a lot of flack when I said gold was going to go above 2,500. Go 2,500. Oh, you're crazy. You're a pumper. You're a shill. You're a paid shill. No, I'm not a paid shill. I believe it in my heart. I know it. Right? I think in the next 10 years, I'll be 60. How old are you? I'll be 65 years old. Tell us how old you are in the comments. All right. Or tell us, better yet, tell us where you're joining from, because we are getting together. We love to talk about gold and silver. My final point on silver is it can be more than, I'm going to be alive in 10 years. Sorry. Okay. Buttercups, I'm going to be here. And I will see silver above 1,000. I wouldn't be shocked if it was multiple thousands, 10,000. I don't care. Right. That's what I believe. All right, guys, if you want me to give you a shout out, hey, let's see where we're all joining from all over the world, basement dwellers. Anybody out there? I know Jake's in Texas. Our children will benefit. Okay, New Orleans. Awesome. Generational wealth. Hey, Debbie, good to see you. Okay. Where else? Jake from Jake's Custom Ports. Hello, Steve Horn. Alaska, California. Wow, Sacramento, California, Pennsylvania, Minnesota. Isn't it awesome? We're all basement dwellers. We're together here in the basement. Wow, what an honor, guys. What an honor. Central Florida. That's where Disney World is, right, Douglas? Orlando, Central Florida. All right, guys. Hey, thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the basement. Again, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Oklahoma, Michigan, not John, North Georgia mountains, Tennessee, Brandon. Wow. You guys are awesome. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Man, it's incredible. Sweden. I was just going to say, we don't have anybody from Europe. Good to see you, my friend, Malmstring in Sweden. Sweden, 2 people in Sweden. Susie, this Susie, can you see her? Yeah, this one. Usually she's on the walkie-talkie. That's my wife, Susie. She's Swedish. Moo. All right, guys. Hey, take it easy, okay? I really appreciate you coming down here, being part of the basement, right? I hope you feel like you belong, because you do belong. We don't judge anybody. You can have your own opinions about silver, gold, politics, whatever, crypto, no crypto, whatever your opinions are. You're always welcome here, right? This is a welcoming community, people that want to help each other. A lot of friendships have been made. I want you to come back. Again, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.